Hey, welcome back to Pete Plays. Here we're playing Final Fantasy VI, the Pixel Remaster, and guess what? It's time to uncurse a shield. How do you uncurse a shield? How do you uncurse a broken shield? How can you stop the curse from ruining your life? How can you stop the... whatever. Roll the intro. Alright, who do we want in this party? It doesn't have to be anybody in particular, but I think I kind of want it to be some Weakmans. I haven't hung out with Alvin too much. Oh, Beef Beans is only 38. I don't know what's going on there. I want Gina Christina to learn Raiden. And man, not really any good. I'll just do Gene. Okay, so that's my party. And what we're gonna do here is just get everybody an Esper. Oh, what did I just do? I did not mean to do that. Oh, good. I did the thing I wanted. So I need to give somebody the shield. Probably. Actually, could be Alvin. Cursed shield. But I also need to give him a ribbon. And I know I have one, because I got it. It prevents all status ailments. Yeah. Oh, crud. I didn't mean to do that. Cursed shield, please. Please have the cursed shield. We'll give this boy the growth egg. It won't really matter. But allows the bearer to attack 4 times. No, we don't need that. And I really think it's not that huge of a deal. Okay, that's fine. Yeah. So here we go. We're gonna land. We need to do a lot of these. So basically, I solicited some questiones on Instagram. And I only got a few, so we'll see how long. We'll just make everybody attack, right? Like, that's the easiest way to do this. They're gone. Okay. Well, that was easy. And let's look at these questions that I was given. And there's some really good ones. Okay, 2. First of all, I guess I'll start with the obvious. On the Instagram story, I wasn't paying attention, and the autocorrect took over, and uncursed, or uncurse, I think, turned into uncurled, and friend of show Dirk Walker was like, what does the phrase grind to uncurl a shield mean? Please help, I'm old and confused. Well, Dirk, I'm very sorry, I made a mistake in spelling, but we're uncursing this shield, and it's going quite well, to be honest. This is about as quick as you can do it. Question from friend of the show, Matthias Austin. If I don't watch, will you answer this question? And if so, how would I know? Well, if you don't watch, I'll probably still answer the question. And if you don't watch, you'll know because I'll tell you. I think you were trying to do one of those, like, the guy on the left only lies and the guy on the right only tells the truth, and how do you tell which one is a but I've got you. I answered the question, and we did it. Believe it or not, that's two of the three questions that we've managed to answer in just a few minutes. The last one is one that will take a minute that I'm excited about. Friend of the show, Darren, Dr. Hankziety. Which of your favorite philosophers would make the best or worst umpire? Why? I've been thinking about this for a while. And if you've been watching the show for a while, you know probably that I like umpiring baseball and softball. It's a hobby of mine. It's something I do quite a bit. I'm into it. I like it a lot. I study it. I care about it. But which philosopher would make the best or worst umpire? I don't know. This is a good... So, my suspicion is that I could sort of do a rundown, right? Like, because, like, in terms of judgment, you would think Kant, right? Like, he has a whole book called The Critique of Judgment. But really, his critique of judgment is more about what he calls the power, the faculty of judgment in terms of, like, judging, like... I mean, half of it is about judging sort of aesthetic experiences, which I guess you could make a... claim that, like, that is something... I don't know, it's not really an aesthetic judgment. Judgment is the ability to apply a particular to a concept, right? And that feels like something that Kant would be pretty good at, as long as he understood the rules. But also he was a sort of famously rigid man. So I think he would be kind of like an old school, like a Joe West kind of umpire, where he wouldn't have any time for your nonsense. I think Foucault would be a very bad umpire, because I think the whole time he would just be sort of like deconstructing. Oh no! This was a mistake! Oh! I didn't want this. I got stuck in the... Okay, well, we took him out. I got stuck in the desert, instead of the rock where the little babies are. Yeah, I think he would just kind of, like, be too interested in sort of, like, deconstructing every experience and being too granular and, like, critiquing the positions of power that, you know, the umpire is in over the players and the manager is... Right, like, I think Foucault would be a pretty bad umpire. Plato... I think Plato, and by extension Socrates, would probably be pretty bad umpires. I think Socrates, because he just wouldn't ever come... So many of Socrates' dialogues end in aporia, which means there's no, like, definitive answer to the question. It's just sort of like, we've talked about this for a while. Isn't that nice to think about things really hard? And I'm not sure what the answer is. Oh, well. You can't... That's not an option for umpires. You can't do that. That's not how that works. I think Descartes would be okay, but he would, like, overthink everything. Like, he wouldn't be able to, like, trust what he was seeing, and he would, like, second guess himself, and, oh man, then instant replay would just drive him wild. He would just be like, no, I thought I perceived it this way, and then it was shown to me... Uh-oh. Oh man, I need to reset everybody's thing. Yeah, it's like, oh, I perceived it this way, but the instant replay showed this, and is that just a fabrication? And is the baseball demon like telling me, you know, like giving me the wrong idea of what this is? I think that would be very Descartes. Hegel, I think, would be similar to Kant in that he would just be sort of one of these old crotchety umpires. I think Heidegger would be... I think Heidegger would be a really good umpire. And I actually have made this case in a presentation before. Not an official one, but like one that I made to some of my colleagues. That I called it a phenomenological defense of human umpires, where I basically was like, if we take the project of philosophy seriously as waiting for like waiting for being to do things that being does, and like being sort of obsessed with that in a way, like being really like what is being doing and being attentive to that, and waiting in the clearing for the appearance of being, which is language that Heidegger uses. I think we would be really good umpires because we would wait for the... I mean, basically what I said was we would wait for the... I'll do that. We would wait for the pitch to appear as it is, right? Like we would... I wouldn't go in thinking like, I know what a strike looks like and this is right. And we would just watch the pitch happen. And then it would appear to us as it would show itself to us as a ball or a strike. And I know that sounds very sort of like floofy and silly, but I promise there's actual philosophy in there. And it also is meaningful to me because it kind of takes up this, what's a very sort of Buddhist concept, I think, of allowing that which is to be what it is. Western metaphysics and scientific apparatuses in general are really just pretty consumed with making things fit names and making things fit concepts. And that's not bad, right? I'm not saying that it's like bad that there's science. I'm saying that sometimes we get ahead of ourselves. This is Husserl's critique of the modern sciences, and he's like, we have this idea of what it means for something to be X, Y, or Z. But then what we do is we think that our measurement of what makes something apply to an aim is the thing itself, right? We become obsessed with, say, numbers, right? A way that we might apply this in say, baseball is there's a lot of talk about the use of analytics versus kind of going with your gut or like hands-on, like experiential managing. And there are times when the numbers can give you lots of really good information, like, hey, I want to take a bet with this guy against this pitcher, and his batting average is this, and it tells me that he's really good at this kind of situation, right? Those are really helpful. But they can also get in the way of us just looking at a player and being like, is my player ready to succeed in this circumstance? This is part of the reason why I don't think that the rise of analytics in professional baseball is ever going to affect most baseball players. Because we won't ever be in a situation where most people who just like to play baseball will have the resources to have all of these analytics, will have the sample sizes of numbers and consistent situations to make those analytics useful, right? We just kind of have to watch what appears. So getting overly invested in the numbers is what Husserl would say is this kind of crisis of the European sciences, right? Missing the point, missing the phenomenon for the numbers itself. This is why I'm really invested in epistemological strategies that are about privileging experience. Not because I don't think that data comes from experience, but because I think that there are experiences that are not reducible to data points, and that we lose meaning when we see them merely as data points. I think this is true in baseball. I think this is true in ethics. I think this is true in politics, right? I think this is true in lots of things. And I think this started as what philosopher would be the best umpire, and it sort of morphed into like what is my philosophy, which I suppose that's liable to happen just about any time I start talking about philosophy, because, you know, like, I have very, like, not significant, what's the word I'm looking for? I have distinct metaphysical commitments that kind of guide how I think about things. And one of those is, this is how I feel about being, right? This is how I feel about what it means to do philosophy. How long have we been doing this? I don't know. Wow, 15 minutes. This is not going to be a full-length episode because I don't want to just talk at you for 30 minutes. Maybe that's something you love or not, but I'm going to do a lot of the grinding here and then finish it up probably off screen. But, oh, nice. I punched that guy so hard that the other guy just died. Anyway, philosophy is interesting, man. And I am into philosophy that attempts to trouble the space between my experiences as I experience them and my ability to describe and measure and communicate them. That's the gap, right? This is also Heidegger. Being overflows experience. There's too much being for you to, like, experience it all, let alone tell somebody else about all of it, right? And that's kind of cool. Hannah Arendt tells us that the human condition is that we are conditioned, right? That's it. That's the only human condition. We're finite. We are not... I think Arendt might take issue to me describing it this way, but I don't see why Arendt's philosophy can't pretty neatly be fit into Foucault's idea of the historical a priori. And if that sounded like a bunch of jargon, it is. But basically what it means is Kant will talk about the a priori as like this thing that happens and structures our experience before we even have it, right? A posteriori is information or judgments that come from experience, and a priori is sort of what we bring to the table before we're even born, right? Because Kant thinks, oh, the human brain just works this way, right? The human brain schematizes experience under concepts that are just how the brain works. But what Foucault is going to say is, yeah, but there's no reason why those schema and those concepts would remain the same throughout all of history, human or otherwise, I suppose. There's no reason why humans have to experience time the way that we do. This is, oh goodness, there's a philosopher that does a lot of stuff about the phenomenology of time, and I can't remember his name off the top of my head. There's no reason it has to be a certain way. And in fact, Heidegger argues that the way human beings experience time fundamentally was changed by the invention of the clock. Our actual experience, our a priori, changed when clocks changed humans. The Industrial Revolution did this to us, right? So it's not to say that there's not like a starting point, but what the historical a priori says is the starting point can change, right? There may come a time in I don't want to walk in that desert. There may come a time in human history where we don't have time consciousness the way that we tend to think humans do. And also that time is kind of now. I mean, one thing that I've talked about before is that people with ADHD tend to experience time blindness. That is a fundamental comportment of the experience of people whose brains work like that, right? And that might someday become normal. And by normal, I mean that's what we describe the sort of like overall human experience as, not something that is generally pathologized, which is unfortunate. Are there cons to being time blind? You bet there are. But are there pros to it? I think that there definitely are. And they fit with how we structure and value our human experience. So to say that, I think we've got to switch. Man, we got to switch out. I kind of just want Gene to learn every Esper the way that he, like, because that would just be Gene. He would just be like, I must learn everything. I'm a student of the sword. Where was I going with all of this? I don't really remember, but basically, I think the only a priori that is constant for human experience is that there is an a priori that we find ourselves at, and that we don't have control over everything, right? Or an easy way to say that might be the only constant is change. Right? That's kind of what Arendt means. Oh, good. Whew. That's kind of what Arendt means when she says that, you know, the human condition is that we are conditioned. And I dig that. And I think that's cool, and I think that's something to think about. Because I think that means that we have to take seriously things like grieving and mourning for people who have passed, and acting as if things will not be forever. Having a relationship with the world as if it were finite, because it is. Or at the very least, our relationship with it is, because we are finite, right? I think that finitude, this is something that I think Christian theology sometimes gets really right, and in application actually can go quite poorly also. But this idea that, like, it's not precious because it can be lost. It's precious because we make it precious through our understanding that it can be lost. And I think that's a very subtle distinction, but I think it's one that makes a lot. I don't love my loved ones. I don't love my parents because they're going to be gone someday. I love my parents while understanding that the way that I love them has to take into account that they'll be gone someday. And at a certain point, that either just means something to you or it doesn't. And that's why I'm not into these guys who are like, well, philosophy is just about all these self-evident claims and clear and concise and blah, blah, blah. And I think that's dumb and bad. Like, I don't like guys who do philosophy that's just like snooty math. Like, I don't think that's good philosophy. I think it's just, you know, liking that you think you're smarter than other people. And I don't know. A philosophy has to have some of that, that's sort of, you know, woo-woo in it, I think, to be the most meaningful. So, who knows? Anyway, that's a nice little philosophy chat. A curse-lifting philosophy chat, if you will. I'll do one more here and then we'll call it for this slightly short episode of Pete Plays, but that's totally fine because we've done a lot of things, and I don't know how many battles we've done, but it was probably close to 100 if I had to guess, which is not quite halfway, but we'll finish this out. We'll get ourselves an uncursed shield and feel great about it. We'll see you next time on Pete Plays. Bye.